How can you tell?
All right, we are going to call this
City Council regular meeting to order at 7:02. Please call the roll.
Mayor Fahad?
Here.
Vice Mayor Dion? Here. Councilman Santeen? Here. Councilman Lamas?
Here.
Councilman Perez Crespo? Here. There is a quorum present.
Thank you. Let's please stand for the invocation led by Councilman Fabian Perez Crespo.
We gather here today, united by our shared commitment to the well-being of the city of Miami Springs. Let us be mindful of our responsibility to serve the common good, to act with integrity, and to strive for justice and fairness for all our residents. May our discussions and decisions be guided by wisdom, compassion, and a deep respect for diverse perspectives. May we work together to build a brighter future for our community, one that is inclusive, prosperous, and sustainable. Let us begin our work with open minds and hearts, seeking common ground and striving for unity. Let us also pray for the safety of all men and women in uniform who put themselves at risk to protect our community. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We will go through our agenda. We move on to 4, agenda and order of business. To my colleagues on the council, I would like to propose a discussion item reviewing and discussing implementation of our 2021 vacation rental property ordinance. We would do that. In other business. Are you guys okay with me putting that discussion on?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. And is there anything that you guys feel need to be moved, or is there anything in consent that you want to pull for discussion? No? I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
Motion to approve the agenda as stated.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we can do that with a voice vote. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, so we move on to awards and presentations, and we will begin with a presentation of the Miami Springs Employee Service Award recognizing Thomas Cummings, Public Works Sanitation Supervisor, for his 40 years of service. So we're going to ask Thomas, and give us a chance to get up there, and we're going to have John Penn, our wonderful Public Works Director, say a few words and present this service award to the very dedicated Mr. Cummings.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Mayor, Council. Every once in a while, it's hard to come across somebody that dedicates that much time. I know I've been in this business 45 years, and I beat him by a couple of years, but Mr. Cummings is actually a breath of fresh air coming to Miami Springs myself, because the kind of institutional knowledge that he has is unreplaceable. You can't replace that kind of knowledge. I'm glad for his efforts. I'm glad that he's here. I hope he stays here a little bit longer so I can get some institutional knowledge out of him. But so far, in the time I've been here, he's been a wealth of wisdom. And I can't say enough about his work ethics. Thank you.
You want to say a few words? All right, well, thank you for your service, and let's take a picture.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wants to stay up?
Yeah, no, so guys, stay up here, because we're going to present Yard of the Month. All right, so, next we have our Yard of the Month for February 2026, and this goes to Jeanette Pereira of 217 Duval Drive. Come on up with your family if you like. All right, so who's the idea person, and are you the idea person behind the yard?
My husband mows the lawn, however, I do help mow the lawn. Those who are here that are my neighbors have seen me mow the lawn as well.
I'm her neighbor, I can attest to that.
And I do all the gardening and
That's awesome.
pruning and everything, so I thank you so much for nominating us for this beautiful prize that our hard work is rewarded by accepting this prize. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, and thank you for keeping the yard beautiful. 217 Duval Drive, guys, if you want to drive by.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Wait, picture.
Thank you. Okay, I will.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, so we move on to open forum. We have one person signed up for open forum. Come on up, Mary Owens. Please state your name and address for the record. And remember that you have 3 minutes. It's one-way communication, but we're here to listen.
Thank you. Mary Owens, 169 Corridon Drive. Mayor and council, thank you for letting me speak. I'm speaking today about your Fair Havens project. If you recall a few years back, those of you that lived here, when they did the Circle project, when finally they sold the old Hoffman and that whole area and built the 3-story apartment, they took it was supposed to be a 12 to 18 month project, and they took 3.5 years. Canal Street was closed forever. The ingress and egress of the Circle was terrible because of it. And the problem with that, there were 2 problems. The parking, which I blame Alonzo and the city planner, and they didn't extract any money for the lack of parking for the retail, and they just kept going on and on and on. Nobody set a deadline. This is a massive project, Fair Havens. You need to set deadlines, and if they don't make or meet your deadline, they need to come back to this council. You're the authority that's authorizing this project. You need to be the authority to override or extend time or change the project. I don't want the consulting planner or our illustrious city manager to decide that. And if it's in 18 months, and some of you won't be on council in 18 months, it needs to come back to the council. So set the deadline for every facet, 6 months for the hotel, the Kellogg part of it, and I say 2 years for the entire project, including landscaping. You don't want to torture the residents around there, and you don't want to torture the residents it's a busy street, Curtis Parkway. So my suggestion to you is take control, set deadlines. And if they don't meet those deadlines, come back to you, this council. Do we have any other comments? No, I like the project. I think they're going to do very nicely with it, but I want it done in a timely manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, we have no one else for open forum, Anybody online? Okay, all right, so we move on. We do have some people that are signed up, but they are signed up to talk about said project when we get to 9 in the agenda, so we will move on. Moving on to approval of the council minutes, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the January 26th local planning agency meeting minutes and the January 26th regular council meeting minutes.
Set a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
All right, we have a first and a second. Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Dion?
Yes.
Councilman Santeen?
Yes.
Councilman Llamas?
Yes.
Councilman Perez Crespo?
Yes.
Mayor Behet?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. Moving on, we have no reports from boards and commissions. Have public hearings.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor, and members of the council. Today, you will be hearing 5 public hearing items. Of course, 4 of them, those are 9A, B, C, and D, are all related to the same project, which is relating to 201 Curtis Parkway. A brief explanation, I think, would be helpful for this council and for members of the public. 9A, the council will be sitting in its capacity in its legislative capacity. Excuse me. For items 9B, C, and D, the council will be sitting in its quasi-judicial capacity, applying competent substantial evidence to the application request before you. At this time, I'll read the titles. Of course, Mayor, I'm assuming that you're okay taking all 4 together.
Absolutely.
The first item is an ordinance of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, approving with conditions, denying a small-scale amendment to the city's future land use map, flume designation for the properties generally located at 201 Curtis Parkway, designated property folio numbers 053119010, 0620, and 053119010, 0680, from single-family residential to medical residential, providing for authorization, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Again, this item will be heard in your legislative capacity. The next 3 items: an ordinance of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, creating Section 150.081 of the city's Code of Ordinances to create a new medical and residential care MRC zoning district, permitting nursing, convalescent and extended care homes, assisted living facilities, and accessory uses and structures incidental thereto, and establish development parameters governing development in the district, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for implementation, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date. An ordinance of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, approving a zoning map amendment to rezone approximately 5.498 net acres of property located at 201 Curtis Parkway and designated property folios 053119010, 2480, and 053119010, 0620 from R-3C multiple family residential, medium density, to MRC, medical and residential care, providing for findings, providing for recording, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. And the final item is a resolution of the mayor and the city council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, approving with conditions denying a site plan application by Fairhavens Propco LLC for the Fairhavens Nursing and Rehabilitation Center site plan on the property located at the approximately 5.49 net acres of property located at 201 Curtis Parkway and designated property folios 0531190, 010, 2480, and 0531190, 010, 0620, providing for conditions and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Before we hear from the applicant and the planner, would it be okay if I open it up for public hearing? Because I usually like to residents to kind of voice whatever concerns they have prior to the presentation, so that if there is something that they feel like they can address, they get their answers right away rather than, so, that be okay?
As long as the applicant and staff are okay with that.
Thank you, guys. All right, so I'd like to, at this time, open this up for public hearing. We have 2 people signed up. We have Cindy Dwyer. Come on up. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yes.
If the clerk could just swear in anyone who's going to give testimony today.
Anyone giving testimony, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Cindy Dwyer, and I reside at 300 Morningside Drive, directly across the street from Fair Havens. I'd like to begin by saying what I like about this project. I, along with many residents of Miami Springs, appreciate that the applicant has agreed to restore the historical structure to its original glory, and I like that 100% of the project trees will be natives. However, in my opinion, the proposed building is grossly out of scale and character with the surrounding neighborhood due to its massive blocky structure. The need to surround this behemoth behind a thick wall of vegetation in an attempt to hide it speaks to how out of place it would be. The building ignores the context in which it would arise. It would, however, fit perfectly in the medical center located north of downtown, where it would blend seamlessly with the other institutional buildings. The updated letter of intent dated January 30th states that the proposed development is designed to maintain compatibility with surrounding uses. I find it interesting that no claim was made that the proposed development is designed to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Yes, it's true that the people who live in the surrounding homes use their property as a safe place to sleep at night, as do the residents of Fair Havens. So in that sense, the uses are compatible. But I believe that this proposed monstrosity of a building flies in the face of the community character goal contained in the future land use element, which states in part that the development policies shall protect and preserve Miami Springs' single-family residential character and neighborhoods. This goal is to be achieved by maintaining an adequate supply of safe, decent, and affordable housing. At a minimum cost of $450 per day, however, Fair Havens cannot be thought of as an affordable option for those who, through old age or sickness, can no longer take care of themselves. The applicant has shown a willingness to amend the development in response to community concerns. I believe that the applicant could come up with a design that does not cry out to be hidden from view, but instead creates an attractive exterior that blends harmoniously with the surrounding neighborhood. In conclusion, I ask that you deny the site plan application associated with this project, and I thank you for the opportunity to provide comments this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Dwyer. Okay, next up, Randall Rakestraw. Please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. That was my wife, Cindy Dwyer. Randall Rakestraw, 300 Morningside Drive. My big problem is we've got the architectural rendering, and it is just a ginormous structure. I'd like to see the size and scope reduced, so I can't state it as eloquently as my wife, but my opposition to the project is based on size. I'd like to see it reduced in size. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, I know that more people stood up to be sworn in than would signed up, so if you'd like, you can come on up. Vincent, I know you raised your hand. Come on up. State your name and address for the record since we didn't have you signed up.
My name is Vincent Nolan. I'm told because cheesy, silly. No, what they meant there. But then, very well different. I'm sure, more easy. No, for what they really. I'm going to live in Miami Bay. I'm sorry. Yes. Sorry. Sorry.
All right, thank you, Vince. All right, anybody else want to speak? Come on up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Good evening, my name is Natalie Quiles de Carrillo. I reside at 222 Palmetto Drive. I came to you during the first reading because I was very concerned, I am very concerned still about the parking regarding the updates to Fairhaven. I've seen the impact in my previous neighborhood 10 years ago with development, and I'm concerned that although they will address parking regarding people that will visit the new structure and the existing structure, where will all the employees that are going to be working at that facility be parking? As it was, there was parking all over the place before. Because the half of it is closed right now, there's a lot less impact with that. We won't see as many cars, but that will all come back, especially if they're going to make a new addition. So that continues to be my concern from all the drawings and everything that I've seen come around. So I would like for you to please consider that in your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on this item? Sure, come on up. Were you sworn in? Were you sworn in early? Yeah, just want to make sure. I know I'm inviting, but please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, hi to everyone. My name is Victor Cueto. I reside at 117 Palmetto Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wasn't able to, in person, make the prior meetings, but I listened online. I want to say, first of all, in summary, that the majority of the residents, at least in the meetings that I was able to listen to and even here today, have shown significant opposition to this project. I feel that there has been a narrative proposed as far as the land use that is somewhat entrapment of the narrative whether or not this is something available to a future developer, and therefore allows us to only have one choice, which is essentially to consider this as a medical facility. So beyond the concerns of the actual project and its size, as so eloquently stated previously, I feel that we, as a community, and as those living around this project, are essentially beholden to you all with very little choices in front of us. Furthermore, with the new renderings, and I do appreciate that the developer has tried to make adjustments, as has been stated, its significant size and encroachment upon the neighborhood is very disconcerting. In the new renderings, the proposed building abuts Morningside essentially, despite the green belt as it's been described. And the parking on Morningside, and I fear for the residents on Navarre as well, will create significant congestion. As it is, that space right now, although it's green space, is poorly developed in terms of pedestrian friendliness, and there is no sidewalk on that side. If this project were to go forward, I would implore that the council consider that perhaps a median or other dividing structure on the side, on the Morningside area, similar to the median that exists on Morningside further on to the east, be considered to perhaps limit some impact of the traffic and the egress and ingress to the proposed parking lots. Moreover, I also would have you consider that a significant setback be considered for the proposed building, especially the part that extends essentially towards Morningside. That is significant, especially with light pollution to that area of Morningside and to those residents. And even though I am a block away on Palmetto Drive, is significant in terms of the light pollution that we have, even with the current building there. And so, again, such a large facility and building would just worsen our light pollution in addition to the other concerns. I thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and I implore council to make a good decision for the community.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this item? Okay, we close public hearing. We move on.
Sorry, just to clarify, public comment.
Public comment, sorry. Public comment. All right. Do we have a...
When do you want to hear us first?
Sure, let's hear from the applicant or from city staff.
I never want to jump ahead of Ms. Vargas, so she's racing to get to the microphone, but I'll go. Well, good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone again. Graham Penn, Burke Howard, Alfred Nunez, Larkin Tappanis, 200 South Muscogee Boulevard, here for what we hope is the final appearance of this project. And this is the wrapping up of the 4 elements that we've been discussing for multiple months. I'm going to, as we go through it, I'm going to make sure that I address some of the concerns that we heard from the public at the outset. Erica, am I doing this wrong? The doohickey. For the record, we have a smaller team with us tonight. I'm joined by my associate, Mr. Rob Alvarez. So, and as you'll see, and as we discussed previously, we believe that the changes that have been made to this application package have made it a better development. It's also made it a better neighbor, and we think that this is the right move for what is one of the most important sites in the city. So here we are, southeast corner of Curtis Parkway. As you know, we're bordered by Crescent on the north, Navarre on the east, and Morningside on the south. And this is the layout of the buildings and the campus that has existed for many, many decades at this point. I say this every time, but we do believe that there are 2 most important elements of this property, right? It is the most important historic site in the city, in our opinion. And it is the home for hundreds of elderly residents that we are doing our best to get back into their homes while we work on the restoration work as quickly as possible. And, the city has grown around this property, right? This building was built in 1927. By the time you hit the 40s, it was already a sanitarium, and you can see that we were kind of surrounded by nothing. The post-war period, 1963, it was already a nursing home. And the city has started to grow around it. You can see all the post-war housing coming in, and then by 1980, the 1970s buildings of the southern end of our property have been built, and the city is basically in the form that we see it today. So we have been here for a very long, long time. And what the ravages of time have impacted this building significantly. As we've discussed before, February of last year now, an engineering study was done that basically resulted in the conclusion that the historic building and the Kellogg wing are in significant risk of falling apart. All of the wooden elements that are in the building have been eaten up. There's a lot of rot inside the structure. So what we've been working on now, and what the HPB has approved, and we'll talk about a little bit more at length tonight, is the full renovation of the interior of the structure, the removal of all the existing structural materials, replacement with modern structural elements of steel, as well as the full restoration of the exterior of the structure. I know to talk a little bit about where we are, I know the Vice Mayor had questions about this last time. I got a little bit more details of where we are. As of today, this project, like any other nursing home, is controlled largely by the state licensing they call ACA. ACA approves projects in phases, so that we are now at phase 2 of the Kellogg wing ACA approvals. We also have the shoring engineers are at the site with the new GC today, and we are anticipating all of the shoring that's necessary to allow the full gutting of the interior of the Kellogg wing to to be in place in the next 2 weeks. So that is moving with all deliberate speed. So just for the benefit of the public who might not have heard me blather about this before, the plan of action is to do the Kellogg wing to completely finish it. That means interior, exterior, and then have folks back in their rooms in the Kellogg wing, then move on to their historic structure, do the exact same thing, gut out all the bad structural elements, replace them with steel, introduce new floors, do the full exterior renovation, and then have our folks back in there. So that is the project that is the first part of this project, and as you'll note, and I'll talk about it again at length, I know. The site plan conditions require that work to be done before any new construction can take place. So we're assuming the site plan is approved, all the restoration work needs to be complete before we can even think about pulling a building permit for any new development. So that will be required under the terms of our site plan approval. So we have 5 major goals here. First, obviously, we're going to keep the buildings intact. They're very important. Second, the most significant restoration ever attempted on the historic building, the Kellogg wing, in the almost 100 years they've been with us. Important for us, obviously, bringing our patients, our residents back into that renovated building in those stages that I just discussed. A lot of what we're talking about with the site plan are significant operational improvements, inclusive of massive amounts of additional parking, that I understand there was a concern about parking. As you'll see, the parking that we're proposing as part of the site plan is 4 times what exists on the property today, with the same number of beds. No increase in bed count, 4 times the amount of parking. So this is going to be a game changer when it comes to the operation. And as to the zoning and the comprehensive plan changes, really just putting this property in the right context in your zoning code. As we've discussed before, this parcel, the main campus, most of it is zoned for multifamily use, despite this being a nursing home for the last 70-plus years. Plus, we need to resolve the zoning and the comprehensive plan for the southern piece of the property that touches Morningside. For those of you who might not have seen the Historic Preservation Board meetings, we had several of them. We have a fully approved renovation plan. The HPB approval also includes the approval of the architecture for the new building. But the renovation plan, as I noted before, is the most elaborate ever attempted on this property. Not that many have been attempted before, but it has been designed to include every architectural element that existed on this building when it was constructed. That means all the trellises are being reintroduced, or reintroducing the dome, or reintroducing all these elements that you might not have ever seen or noticed were there in 1927. But thanks to HPB, we're now able to identify them and reintroducing them. We were removing all of the exterior window shaker air conditioners. We're replacing every single window in the entire building with a historically accurate but hurricane-safe version. So this is, again, a game changer for this property, this restoration plan, and this has to happen before I do anything else.
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
Just because you mentioned the HPB twice for people that may not have been following along. That's the Historic Preservation Board,
Yes.
right? That you guys have been working. Do you want to just?
Sure, yeah. Under the terms of the city code, any work in a historic property or historic structure requires the approval of a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Board. So earlier this fall, while we were processing these current applications, we also went and got their approval for the restoration approval and the new site plan. So they approved both the restoration work and the new site plan, and that included down to the level of the window design, as I elaborated, and the paint colors. We came back for the paint color approval to make sure that this is done right. So there was months spent with them, and I again, as I said at the outset, I think that that process especially resulted in a significantly improved project, and we're very proud of where we ended up with the HPB. So this is just another view of one of the HPB approved portions. This is the southern end of the property. Again, the level of detail that they required us to do was a lot of additional work, but it's going to result in a much better product. This building, again, is going to be nothing like it
is today. So, looking forward, setting the property in the right course from a zoning perspective and making significant operational improvements. That's what we're going to talk about, the zoning and the site plan. So, as I said, this process has been formed by comments we've received from the public, zoning planning board, this council, and so there have been significant changes to what we've requested and the site plan as we've gone. So I'm going to kind of frame that because I think that I want to make sure that everyone in the public understands where we were and where we ended up. So basically, so we have an original set of 4 proposals, and we have a much reduced scope with the current proposal. So first, we had, as Roger noted, we had a comprehensive plan amendment that we were proposing to apply to our entire property, including west of Renette, that's the important area. Rezoning of the entire site from single-family and multifamily to office. Text amendment, adding in provisions related to nursing homes for the office district. And finally, site plan approval. That included work west of Renette. So where are we today? We still have a comprehensive plan amendment, but it's only on the main campus east of Renette. We've changed the rezoning from office to a brand-new zoning district called MRC that will only allow nursing. The concern that we heard about office was that, well, look, someone could do a big office building here of any kind, it would still be legal under that zoning. So now, our zoning will be only for nursing homes. That was the only thing we can do here, with a significant set of detailed standards that are applying to that use. That includes requirements related to the parking system, the buffering requirements. I'll show you that list in a second. And the site plan approval got reduced down to east of Renette, and we made significant changes and improvements to the way that site plan functions. So, I'm going to go through these as briefly as I can. Let's talk about the land use amendment. So again, the original proposal was the entire site to medical residential, and we reduced the scope. So this is our current comprehensive plan map. You can see our properties mostly in purple. We have single-family pieces, 1 on Curtis and 2 on Morningside, the southern portion of the main site, and then 1 west of Renette. So what we had proposed to do originally was to redesignate all of the entire site from its mix to medical residential. And there was a lot of concern, as you recall, about any action west of Renette. So the modified request is taking any of that change off of Renette, west of Renette, and removing it. So all we're doing is the main campus is going to be designated what it should be designated, which is medical residential. Again, that's what it's the proper designation for a nursing home. That's what we're requesting. The zone change is very similar. This is our existing zoning. So the main site is R3C, which is multifamily residential. That's its current zoning district. Everything west of Renette is single family. So what we again had proposed to rezone ourselves all to office, because it was one campus, and we said, well, it should be the same zoning district. Even though Ms. Vargas suggested at the beginning that we should pick a new zoning district, and she ended up being right. But so that was our original request. So our modified request, again, is removing any change west of Renette and changing the request from office to the new MRC. Again, so this is all laser focused on avoiding impacts to the single-family neighborhood. Text amendment, same thing. Again, we originally said, well, look, 01 allows nursing homes, let's just add new criteria to 01 that governs nursing homes only. Ultimately, because we're changing the zoning district, we just changed all that into the MRC. So what the MRC district does, allows only nursing homes, requires, this is the zoning and planning board suggestion, pervious material for parking only, so our parking lot is all pervious. So there were concerns that we heard about stormwater issues in the neighborhood, and again, this property will solve stormwater in two ways. Number one, it will finally have a modern stormwater system, which a building built in 1927 doesn't have. And two, we're going to use pervious material in all of our parking. We reduced the building height down to 40, which we had proposed 45. There's an additional language in there ensuring that you have a backup generator that meets and exceeds the state standards, and it has signage language. It provides non-conforming protections for our historic building to allow us to do the restoration work that I talked about earlier. And it requires any setback areas that are across the street from single family, which of course is Navarre and Morningside, to be developed the densely planted green belt of at least 5 feet in width. That entire length of those shared property lines have to have that belt, the green belt in them. We had originally contemplated, back to parking, we had originally contemplated a standard that matched the state standards for nursing homes, but in order to simplify it and have it enforceable for years to come, we've modified that to have a 1 space for every 2 beds requirement in the MRC district. And that's reflected in our site plan. So let me talk a little bit about where we were and where we ended up. This is the original site plan. So big picture, massive improvements in the functionality of this property, right? The introduction of a modern parking lot, especially on Corker Curtis, as well as the satellite parking lots that are around the existing structures, will massively increase the number of parking spaces and remove the problem that has been going on for decades and decades here with people parking all over the neighborhood. The proposed new structure, which again I cannot build until I do all the restoration work that I'm obligated to do under my HPP order, is proposed on the southern end of the site, which is an open field right now, and it's that T shape with the 2 flanking parking lots. So now what we had heard from folks, I also want to note, west of Burnett, we had contemplated the eventual construction of additional parking. So you can see it kind of ghosted out there on the plan. So that was contemplated as a future improvement. That, of course, is off the table now since we're not rezoning it. But we heard a lot of concerns, especially about Morningside, about those 2 driveways and having that kind of intrusion in the neighborhood of the traffic. So that plus the changes to remove the properties from the zoning are the big changes here. So this is the amended site plan. We still have the fantastic improvements from an operational point of view along Curtis, all that additional parking being added, finally have a functioning parking lot. The access issues that have been plagued this property with these weird interactions with Curtis that came from the design and Aiden Crescent are gone. We now have 90-degree access points, which is what you should have in modern engineering. The Morningside treatment, as you can see, we removed both those driveways. So all that parking access will be off of Burnett or Navarre. We've also added in the buffer. You can see again the clear buffer that's on those 2 sides of the property. I'm going to talk about that at excruciating length in a minute. As to access, I just wanted to mention this project will introduce sidewalks on all sides. You can see the sidewalks in the plan, so we're going to have to put the sidewalks in. So finally, again, we predated sidewalks by probably 70 years, but now we'll have sidewalks on this property. I lost my train of fun things to talk about. What you also note is that this isn't, and I'll talk about this at length, this is again, a modern plan requires modern landscaping, so this will be a massive increase in the number of trees and shrubs that are installed on this property, including the introduction of street trees on this site for the first time. So modern requirements again to improve the property. This is the existing condition we have on Curtis. Again, a nonsensical parking arrangement and a nonsensical interaction with the street. This is the least effective kind of parking and access you could imagine. This is what you can see here again is the intrusion of all of these vehicles parked on the grass, parked on the swale, because there's just not enough parking on this property. Only 44 spaces is not enough. And our plan, again, has 4 times that. Again, people here, parking just wherever they can park. So that scenario is going away when we can finally modernize this property. So these are the changes that have been made in response, to summarize, in response to zoning planning, this council, staff, the folks that have come out to the various meetings. Driveways are removed on Morningside. We've added the additional landscape buffer. We've replaced the parking materials with pavers. We're requiring that any increase in the bed count over 329 requires a site plan amendment. So our current bed count is 329, that's our license. There's no anticipation that we're going to exceed it. No new buildings, and again, this goes to the point of the timing of construction. No new buildings may be constructed prior to completion of the restoration of the historic structure. And then no parking, again, is 1 per 2. Those are 188 parking spaces, which again is 4 times what exists on the property and exceeds the new code requirement that we're just imposing on ourselves by 23 spaces. Site landscaping, we've got 52 new street trees, which are those swale trees, 36 new existing new parking lot trees, none in existence, and we have 29 new lot trees. The good thing about this site, it's got a decent number of trees that are on the lot, so we don't need that many new lot trees to meet standards. And as Mr. Dwyer noted, we are proud that 100% of our new trees are native. Street trees are all our combo of gumbo, limbo, and pigeon plum, both very hardy native species that have good canopies on them. So again, the idea of bringing that shade to the street and helping the pedestrian, our street trees are going to do it. Shrubs, there are 15 required shrubs based on our total tree count. We got 5,148 new shrubs, which is a 255% increase. So, and I want to focus a little bit on the southern portion to focus on what that buffer really looks like. So this is the Morningside stretch. It's 270 feet wide. In that area, we have approximately, and this is Lawyer County, 494 new shrubs, 18 new trees. And you can see that double layer, and it gets to a triple layer when we can get enough depth of all those understory plants. So that layer buffer just on this side is copper leaf is the red, which is the closest to the sidewalk. Then we have small leaf clusia. Those of you who are into gardening know how good small leaf clusia is a hedge plant. And behind that, when we're buffering against the parking lot, there's podocarpus. So you've got, again, just in that area, 3 layers of dense planting. And we're not hiding the buildings here, we're hiding the parking mostly, but it is designed to soften that side of the street away from our neighbors. This is just the details of the plan in case you want to see it. So this is the way that the building lays out. So north is to your right side of your drawing. The vast majority of the new structure is located over 100 feet away from the property line. So that's this dimension is 105 feet from the property line. So that is 80% of the building length is that far away. And again, across Morningside, Morningside itself is a 60-foot right-of-way, so you've got 100 feet plus 60 plus what everyone has in their front as their front yards. That portion of the building is significantly far away. Now, the small portion, the 56 feet or so, that's 20% of the entire length, it's at 15. That is still 75 feet away from the other side of the sidewalk. So it is not like we're imposing on everyone being right on top of them. And this, again, is a 3-story building. This is the HPD-approved design for the building. Now, important to note, we worked very hard with them to make this new building, when it gets built, mimic the design of the historic structure, not copy it, but have elements that are similar enough that it's compatible. And what elements are that? You can tell the window systems will be the same. So the window design is the same as the historic building. We have the same treatment of the air conditioning units that mimics the way the historic building is going to look, and we have the same eyebrows, which is above the window. And of course, the roof line is treated in a kind of undulating fashion that mimics the kind of the adobe look in the original building. simple building, but it's been designed to blend in with the historic building and not look out of place. And that's what you want with working with a historic context, something that echoes the historic building but doesn't look like it's copying. So this is the rendering showing that current design. It really doesn't show that much of the landscaping, but it shows you how those historic elements are incorporated in the design. Just another rendering. So before I close, let me make sure I've attempted to address some of the concerns we've heard. So as to the talking about kind of the issue with the circle and timing, construction, etc. One of the advantages we have in this property is that we're a very large site, right? We can do all of that important work, which is all the historic work, all the Kellogg wing work, which again, I have to do before I can do any other construction, without significantly impacting the exterior of our property, right? Because we have a large areas both in front and behind of the historic building to do all of our staging, to do our work. And of course, any of our MOT needs to be, and this is in draft order, it needs to be approved by the city and can be managed by the city. Parking, of course, I've already belabored it. We know there's concerns about parking. That's why we designed this to have 4 times the existing parking and exceeding the required parking by 25. The southern treatment, we've listened to our neighbors. We've removed any access on Morningside. We've also enhanced the landscaping in that area. And again, that small portion of the building, when it gets built, is only 20% of that entire length. Right? The vast majority of that building is over 100 plus feet away from the sidewalk. So, I think everyone's going to see their favorite slide is coming. Just the last one. So, there it is. We're all breathing easy. I'm about to stop. But as I noted at the beginning, this has been a long road. The applications before you tonight represent the product of discussions with this council, with zoning and planning, with the community. And any of you who happen to be at that first, the P&Z meeting or any of the HPV meetings know that there was a lot of folks coming out, a lot of folks concerned about what this project could be. And we've heard those concerns, and I think we've addressed them. The end result of these changes, again, will improve the quality of the redevelopment and ensure that this property has the appropriate zoning for its current use and its future use. The public has been protected by the provisions in the MRC zoning code to ensure that this won't become a different use. We've reduced the scope of our request to avoid any work west of Renat. So that means that intrusion in the neighborhood that was concerned is no longer possible. We can't do it. So with that, we would ask for your approval of all 4 of these items tonight. We're, of course, here for any questions you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Anyone want to chime in?
If Sylvia would like to make a presentation,
Sylvia?
if she's good.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. I'm not sure that I actually need to make my presentation. The presentation is going to be very short, just 13 slides. And I think at this point it will be highly repetitive. The only thing perhaps that I would do I'm not gonna walk you through the whole presentation. But I do want to emphasize a couple of things that Mr. Penn mentioned. and perhaps the attorneys are going to mention to you as well. This evening, we are presenting you with 4 of the 5 related applications. It was mentioned that this process started with certificate of appropriateness, which is where it had to start, and has moved forward with 4 applications that have a certain sequence of review and of approval. And you actually did approve on first reading the original version of the future land use map amendment proposal. Some people may have been confused to see that title still be in the ordinance tonight for the 2 parcels, but because that had been advertised that way before, I'm sure the attorneys can reiterate this too, it had to be advertised the same way. So tonight when you vote, if you vote to approve, you will also amend that title and any language in the ordinance to reflect the reduction in scope, which is essentially, let me just go here. I see I had my whole thing worked out so that you can see all the process that we've gone through. We've been at this since October of last year. But in any case, the reduced scope, as you know, is just one of the 2 parcels that belong to this applicant that are located on the morning side of the property. The other item that I wanted to perhaps also reiterate, because I have heard some confusion as to, well, why are those parcels on west of Raynette shown in purple? And I want to make sure that it is understood that that, which is the map on the left here, is the currently adopted future land use map. Those parcels today are purple, basically are the residential medical. And I have also heard, well, why are we changing those? This is a privately initiated application, and they have set the scope of the request. So tonight, you're not going to be voting to revert those parcels to any other designation, although the city can choose, or the applicant can choose in the future to do so. But I wanted to explain that so that there's no confusion as to what is happening tonight. I'm not going to talk about this because it's been explained in a lot of detail, and my explanation coincided mostly with what Mr. Penn has said. On the rezoning, I'm also not going to go a lot into detail. You know that there is an inconsistency between our future land use map and our zoning map. You know that this whole process has been an attempt to resolve that. Some people have asked, well, why can't we just do it the other way around, like, you know, make sure that the zoning is, like the future land use is the same. In a typical process, a community, a local government will go through a comprehensive plan process first. And this community has had a comprehensive plan at least since the 80s, which is when the state adopted the Growth Management Act and required every community in Florida to have a comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan sets a vision and a long-term blueprint for the community to grow. That doesn't mean that that blueprint cannot change over time. Obviously it does, and in fact, every 7 years the state requires communities to review that, right? So typically you will go from comprehensive plan, setting the vision, to your zoning, implementing that vision. And they have to be consistent, and that's required by the state as well. I'm not going to go through this because it's been done in detail, and the only
Ms. Douglas, if I may also, just
Yeah,
for
sure.
everyone's benefit and for the council's benefit, of course, the staff report, which is a part of the record, has a lot of this explanation already.
It has all of the explanation on our side of our analysis of, there's a record of the previous staff report that looked at the previous version of the site plan, as well as the current one. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them. I'm just not going to get in detail to the presentation. Mr. Penn has done that in excruciating detail, as I knew he would say. But with regards to this, I will just say that the zoning and planning board, in reviewing it, I think made some very sound recommendations, some sound suggestions. They could have rejected it, but basically because they recommended denial of the other two applications, but on this one they said, if you change it, move forward with these changes. And so tonight, we are making a recommendation of approval of this site plan as amended. And, I'm not going to go through all of the conditions. There's lots of them in the staff report and the resolution. Mr. Penn mentioned the MOT, that is a maintenance of traffic plan that is required. That's going to have to be submitted in conjunction with the building permit to ensure that both vehicular and pedestrian circulation is maintained in a functional and safe manner during construction. There are other requirements pertaining to those types of issues, but the newer condition that has been added in response to concerns that we heard into the staff report, into the resolution, is the condition that the applicant shall complete all the work required by the certificate of appropriateness in the manner required by the certificate of appropriateness, and that we will have verification of that before they can get a building permit for the additional improvements, for the site plan improvements. There is also in the list of conditions an expiration to the site plan. I wanted to mention, this is not, one of the things that I noticed when we started working here for another project that I will not mention is that it didn't have an expiration date ever. So we have made sure to include what I consider a standard, at least pretty standard period of validity for the site plan approval, which is 2 years. And within that period, they have to get their building permit. Not necessarily complete the whole project, but get their building permit. So if there are, discussions among you where you want to set a different kind of schedule for other improvements, for other issues related to the project, the construction of the project, certainly, we'll take them into consideration. And that's it for me, and if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Sure, I got a question
Yes.
for you. So you said that this has been a long process that started back in October.
For the outward facing, we started actually in July.
I know that people have been putting their heads together for a while, but the applicant has received feedback from the Historic Planning Board, from the zoning board, from planning staff, from the council, by means of the residents. How would you characterize their responsiveness to that feedback in terms of making amendments to what they were asking for, or adopting suggested changes from the zoning and planning board and from the historic preservation board and planning staff and the council, and accepting conditions? Would you characterize this process of one where they've...
Yes. Yeah, it's been both collaborative with staff in terms of being responsive and taking ideas, and I think it's also been extremely flexible and responsive to feedback received from all the boards, the review boards, as well as the public. Any other questions for me? Thank you.
Would anybody in the council like to chime in? Have a discussion?
Through the chair, I just want to make sure, and I see that's what you were talking about with the time that they have to get the building permit. So the restoration to the property, the Kellogg Wing in specific, needs to be completed before they could get any...
It needs to be completed before they can get a building permit issued. And they have to apply for a building permit within the 2-year period. And after that, the site plan approval expires, and they will have to come back to you.
Thank you. And one more question, because I noticed one of the residents has a huge concern about the light pollution on Morningside.
Yes.
How can we address that?
Well, certainly one of the requirements that we impose on lighting, there's a photometrics plan that has to be submitted so we can see the light output and how it is managed throughout the entire property. And light fixtures that are external have to be of a cutoff type, so they cannot be, throwing light, out or upwards. So that's something that can be, if you want, can be added as an explicit condition of approval, although it is going to be a required building permit anyway.
Okay, yes, please.
Anyone else want to chime in?
I had the same, Mr. Cueto's concern about light pollution, because I lived in front of the rec center when it was rebuilt, and suddenly I had spillage of light all over my property. Happens to work out, but in such large parking, I think we really need to contain it. Through the chair?
Good.
Regarding the parking, when I drive through Navarro Drive, that's just disgusting. All those cars parked on the swale of the nursing home. It is really, really disruptive to the residents on Navarro. I feel sorry for them. So I hope this proposal parking alleviates or just eliminates that parking on the swale. From what I saw from the blueprints, it does. So, I mean, I sympathize with the neighbors that live on Navarro. And regarding Morningside, I live 2 houses away from this project. So I'm not looking forward to the dust and the noise that's coming from whatever gets built, whenever it gets built, and machinery and all that. However, I think this is a good thing for the city. So again, I will be negatively impacted as a resident because I live 2 houses away. But I feel that this is beneficial to the city. We deserve a decent nursing home. Any one of us here could be there one day. So they've come before Historical Society, the Historical Board, Preservation Board. I've been to pretty much every meeting that they've come before, and they've answered, I think, the questions, the tough questions regarding design, architecture, even the color of the building. So, I just wanted to just talk about that. I want to ask Mr. Penn a question, and maybe it's to you or your team. So you said that in 2 weeks you expect to gut the interior of the Kellogg Wing, was that it?
The shoring will be put up on the exterior of the building that will allow for us to keep the exterior intact while they take out the guts of the interior.
Of the interior. So a couple of years ago when they built the One Circle project, those apartment buildings, they found murals on the Statnik building when they took down the old structure. And we were alerted to that. I would like to ask your team that should you find something of historical value, now that we're in the centennial celebration, within the guts of a 100-year-old building, that you please disclose that to someone in the council so that could be properly photographed, recorded, whatever needs to be done to preserve that historical element of that building.
Sure, 100%. We have no objection to that. Yeah, as you know, this building has 2 designated historic interiors, the lobby and the old restaurant. But 100%. During this work, if something comes up, and you would accept a condition to that effect as well, that, that the city staff will be notified, and there'll be, and there'll be an attempt to preserve whatever we find.
To the chair. So what's the timeline on when we're gonna start working, or you're gonna start working on this project on restoring?
So as I understand it, Mr. Vice Mayor, once we get the shoring up, right, so Kellogg's first, right, so you can imagine, Kellogg has to be complete before we start moving south into the historic structure. So the idea is that Kellogg we'll get the shoring up on it, we'll keep the walls intact, we'll do all the gutting, we're going to completely do all of the work in the interior and the exterior so that we can reseal it, put all the windows back on, do all the surface, and have folks back in Kellogg, and then move on, right? So that process by itself, I can't tell you how long it's going to take, but that's the start. So when people start seeing the scope of work happening, it's going to be all focused on Kellogg until we finish it. Then we'll have patients back in Kellogg, hopefully, and then move on to the historic structure, the main building, and then do the exact same thing there, shore it up, clear out all the upper level interior structural stuff that's rotted out, replace all those floors, and we're going to have folks back in the historic structure, which again we haven't been able to do for a long time, and bring back life to that entire building. Then that's done. So the whole idea is that Kellogg comes first, interior, exterior, then moving on to the historic structure. I don't know if I answered your question.
So without the respect, no, you didn't.
Okay, I wasn't trying to dodge it.
In another way, maybe. So you have a lot of details on the restoration and pretty much on everything, but you don't seem to have a timeline on when you're going to start working on this project.
Well, okay, so and forgive my ignorance of the construction process, but we had to change GCs on this deal too. But I was told today that once the shoring is up in the next couple of weeks, the interior demo of the structural elements will begin in earnest. So we're talking about next month, let's say, to be careful. There'll be active work going on in the Kellogg building. I can't tell you, I'm ignorant of how long that's going to take, but that's the beginning of it all, right? And then once that interior gets done, the exterior of Kellogg gets done, people are in Kellogg, then they move on. So if the question is when is stuff going to start, immediately, right? As soon as that shoring goes up, the plan is to immediately start the work.
What do you consider as immediately within the next month?
Yes, in the next month.
How long has it been gutted the way it is right now?
Well, and I will share your concerns. My understanding, again, was a delay based on ACA issues, and there was a delay when they switched general contractors. So there was an issue with the previous general contractor. So the new GC has, and I understand, has been in touch with the administration, working forward. So they're committed to beginning that work, within that time frame. So, and again, if it's the council's pleasure, we will gladly come back and put us on an agenda, give updates. I'll gladly keep updating the public on a 90-day basis, if that's your interest, to ensure that the movement is still going on and to answer any concerns that we hear from the public. I'm more than willing to come visit everyone if you would like us to keep updated.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I appreciate, you taking the time and coming through all these meetings, answering every question, but I find it kind of strange that you don't have a timeline to start, and that's...
Well, again, I think I've been told, as of today, that the shoring is going up in 2 weeks. That means that once they get the shoring up, that frees them to start the work in earnest. So I'm anticipating that within a month, the work will be underway.
Thank you.
I guess I could have answered that much simpler than I ended up answering.
I think like most developments, developers, they have obviously a plan of action from the beginning, and a lot of times there's a lot of favor to the developer. And ultimately always brings an example of the town center. And my biggest beef with the town center has been that at the end of the day, it didn't give back community benefit as much as I think it should have. And I think overall, in this particular project, there's always going to be back and forth. I think we've collaborated with them. I think ultimately we've come to a compromise. And to me, the community benefit from the historical building we brought back up, from the Kellogg and the historical building, as well as the parking, that's a huge, big deal to us. Time has been addressed, even with Councilman and Vice Mayor bringing it up. I believe stormwater system will be addressed as well. Just, community benefit after another that is improving that particular pocket area. So to me, I think that the community benefits of this project outweigh them not doing anything.
Yeah, I would just want to add, it seems kind of redundant because, again, since October, we have been kind of meeting to talk about things and giving suggestions. And, the applicant has kind of changed it, like, it seemed, well, I guess it has been, it was last year, right? But just a couple months ago, we talked about, he mentioned now during his presentation that the parking lot that they had planned and the lot across from Ray Net is off the table because the single-family zoning remained intact as per the request of the council. So that was a big change that they did. It's also my understanding, so they're getting the approval of the appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Board. That is by
They've already obtained.
Right, but that is required by our code, right?
Right.
But the historic building, there's no national designation of a historic site.
There's no national designation. However, I do want to emphasize our local historic designation does carry regulatory authority.
It does, but they had an engineering report that said that it was enough to store a structure, right? So they could have, if you have an unsafe structure, it's possible that you could just tear it down and build something new and then, right, like...
Mr. Mayor, I understand that they may have said that for continuous use as to their purposes. As far as any unsafe structure designation, that would have to go through our building official.
Right.
But that hasn't been issued.
All right. But they have mentioned an engineering report that they got, right?
I think the applicant would be better suited to speak as to that.
The answer is correct, but to be clear, we never sought an unsafe structures or demolition order or anything like that. We've always been committed to retaining the structure.
Right. Yeah, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that when they describe the things that they agreed to do as per their efforts to restore the historic site, right? Were it to be deemed unsafe, as they stated that they got in the engineering report, their push was always to try to restore that. They're literally, when they say they're gutting, they're doing structural demolition and reconstruction in the interior at the same time that they're restoring the exterior, which I think is a credit to the applicant because they're trying to restore this historic building that was in pretty bad shape. And several times in the past, when we've discussed, like, we appreciate the things that you're doing, but we definitely want this. We're hearing this from residents, and we've been, collaborating to negotiate all of these things. It certainly seems to me that they have been responsive to the feedback that we're getting, and they've been open to making changes based on what we have. But we have mentioned several times that the previous owner that, came into some trouble because of fraud, when this company purchased that, shortly after purchasing it, the pandemic hit, when they were at their lowest point, we all wished that, because there were people, a lot of people died during the pandemic. I always felt like it would be great if somebody would invest in that property so that we could have a nice place where elderly people could live. And I think that they have gone to pretty extraordinary lengths to try to address the needs and tried to do exactly that, invest in this place so that it could be nice, and a nice place, a place that we would want when we get old age to be able to be here, when we have parents that are in, that need palliative care, that can be in a facility such as that. So I welcome the effort, I appreciate their responsiveness. I agree with my colleagues on the council who have mentioned the fact that there's been a lot of compromise in the last 3 months with respect to this project. So it's just where I stand on it.
Through the chair, I'd just like to, take you up on that offer if that's something we could do, and come back within a certain amount of time so we could get a report on where you are. And I would also like to help address some of the concerns, or maybe within reason, of course, some of the residents' issue with the lighting on Morningside.
Yeah, we have absolutely no objection to a formal condition that requires the provision of a lighting plan to ensure compliance with the city's regulations, as well as, again, I threw out 90 days. We have no objection if there's a condition of the site plan that says that we'll come back to inform the council every 90 days as to our progress. If you pick a different time, just let us know.
How does that work?
I've been noting the conditions that have been brought up by the council, and I'll bring that up again at the site, when the council takes up the site plan resolution.
Roger, for this, where we need a motion, a second, and a vote for each one individually?
Okay, so just to reiterate, the first item today that you're going to be considering is the Flume Amendment. There's actually a change to the Flume Amendment that we need to process that Sylvia mentioned earlier. This Flume Amendment is, again, you're sitting with your hat as a legislator, right? And the standard is reasonable minds, whether they can differ on the outcome. If that application is approved, you will proceed to the quasi-judicial items, which are 9B, C, and D. As to 9A, I mentioned that there is an amendment that is necessary, and the amendment would be simply if someone on the council wants to motion to approve, it would be a motion to approve with the amendment to the Flume, removing the property folio designated 05-3119-010-0680. That is the single lot that they originally requested be redesignated from single-family to office. Because of the way that Florida law works, we had advertised under the same title, but the applicant has removed that property on the west side of Raynette from the Flume request.
Okay.
Once that item is done, I'll give you another
Then we'll take on
spiel on the quasi-judicial hat that you'll then put on.
Fantastic. So, in that case, what I'd like is, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve 9A with the amendment that we are removing the property folio 05-3119, 010-0620, because that is...
0680.
Sorry, 0680. Because that was the single-family residential that will remain intact. So we are making I'd like to entertain a motion for approval with that amendment as stated to the Flume.
So, set a motion to amend and to approve the amended ordinance and removing 05-3119-0680. Is that correct?
01006.
Yeah.
And 010.
So just if I can rephrase that for you, Councilmember, it would be a motion to approve the redesignation as written and eliminating the property folio from this redesignation from single-family to medical residential of 05-3119-010-0680.
So move.
So moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second? Go ahead.
Vice Mayor Dion?
Yes.
Councilman Santeen?
Yes.
Councilman Lamas?
Yes.
Councilman Flores Crespo?
Yes.
Mayor Fahed?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, Roger, so
All right.
let's do it.
So the next three items, you are removing your legislative hat, and now you are in your quasi-judicial function as a council, applying the facts that have been presented to you today and making a decision based on competent substantial evidence as to the text amendment, the rezoning, and the site plan. The first item, of course, is the text amendment, which is creating the new medical and residential care zoning district that was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board and which was ultimately also requested by this council.
Okay.
And that would just be a motion to approve item 9B.
Motion to approve item 9B.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second.
Vice Mayor Dion?
Yes.
Councilman Santeen?
Yes.
Councilman Lamas?
Yes.
Councilman Perez Crespo? Mayor Pahet?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, 9C.
9C is the actual rezoning of the main parcels that constitute 201 Curtis Parkway from R-3C multiple family to medical and residential care that you just created.
Okay.
And that would just be a motion to approve the rezoning.
Okay, motion to approve 9C, the rezoning.
So a motion to approve rezoning 9C.
Okay. Second?
Second that motion?
We have a first and a second?
Vice Mayor Dion?
Yes.
Councilman Santeen?
Yes.
Councilman Lamas?
Yes.
Councilman Perez Crespo?
Yes.
Mayor Pahet?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, and finally move on to 9D.
And this is the final item. It is the actual approval of the site plan. Based on the conversation of the council, the motion would be to approve the site plan with the conditions recommended by staff in the resolution and the addition of two further conditions which were proffered and accepted by the applicant. The first being that the applicant provide periodic reports, 90 days, every 90 days to the council if needed on the progress of the construction of the property. And then the second condition would be to submit a detailed photometric plan that demonstrates compliance with the city's lighting regulations. So that would be an approval with conditions as recommended by staff and as requested, or as proffered by the applicant and accepted by this council.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve 9D as stated with the conditions and recommendations as stated.
So move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second.
Vice Mayor Dion?
Yes.
Councilman Santeen?
Yes.
Councilman Lamas?
Yes.
Councilman Perez Crespo?
Yes.
Mayor Pahet?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. And so we move on to 9E, which I believe is a variance.
Thank you again so much for your patience.
See you soon.
Alrighty, Mayor and members of the council, this is a public hearing item, of course. We have not gotten public comment on that. I don't know if you would like to open up public comment on this item at this time.
Yes. I'd like to open up public comment for item 9E. Anybody who would like to speak?
And if I could just read it one, sorry. Sure. A resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, affirming a recommendation of the city's board of adjustment to approve the conditions and application by Ruben Diaz for the property located at 374 Hunting Lodge Drive, property for road number 053024, 006-0810 to permit a 5-foot and 4-inch interior side setback along the east property line, or a 15-foot interior side setback would otherwise be required, providing for conditions, providing for final order, providing for violations, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this item? Sure.
Yeah.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Ruben Diaz, 374 Hunting Lodge Drive. I'm the owner of the residence. Good evening, Council.
I apologize, sir.
Yes, sir.
If the applicant is here, it would be appropriate to request that he present first, if he'd like.
The applicant is my architect, and apparently he's not here.
Okay.
So, just jump in.
Okay, okay, just wanted to make sure.
Basically, 300 Hunting Lodge Drive, It was a big house that was built there. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the property or not, but they built it right up against our property line, a 2-story or 3-story home, which we've lost all our privacy in our backyard. I don't know if you guys have reviewed. Do I have a clicker that I can kind of show you guys?
Did you, that's Sylvia's presentation.
Oh, so, okay, so she will be talking after, okay. Basically, we've been living there for about 8 or 9 years. It's our residence, we have children, we have our pool in our backyard. They built a legal home up against our property, 2-3 stories high. Our house now, from our pool, all we see is the second floor windows looking down into our property. We've lost all of our privacy. We've lost our little sanctuary where we have our orchids and where we hang out and kind of chill. There is no privacy in our backyard any longer. And we have kind of proposed a small trellis, 160 square foot. All we are asking for is for 2 concrete pillars to be built 5 feet 4 inches from the property line in order for us to do a trellis and mitigate some of this privacy that we've lost. That's pretty much what what we're trying to propose. We met last week. I think the council that we presented last week, everybody was in agreement. It's a small footprint. It's nothing. Our neighbor is also compliant, and we will even go to the fact that if we do sell the house and we need to take it down for any reason or anything to that matter, we'll make it built so that we can disassemble, put it away if that's the case. But it is something that's kind of, destroyed our backyard entertainment, and it's, it's something that when they have parties and all this, we're just, completely exposed. That's, we pay a lot of property taxes in that home, close to $30,000, and we've pretty much lost our enjoyment of our backyard at this moment. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you. So,
And Mayor, members of the council, as a reminder, and I know that our office has mentioned this on multiple occasions in your individual briefings, the item before you today is not a public, or it's not a quasi-judicial public hearing. You are sitting here to affirm the decision of the Board of Adjustment or set a separate public hearing, but of course, as a courtesy, we have typically allowed the applicant and staff to just give a Spark Notes version of what occurred.
Good evening again. I think I kind of misunderstood that today you were just either going to affirm or choose to go to another hearing, but given that the applicant has made a presentation, I'm going to just give you very brief notes. As the applicant indicated, this is a side setback variance request. The property is zoned R1A, which is one of your single-family residential districts. This lot is it's quite large, has a frontage of 150 feet on Hunting Lodge Drive and a depth of 300 feet. So it is over 45,000 square feet in area. It's not a small lot by any means, and it's got a lot of space, particularly in the rear yard. There is a one-story single-family residence, which is over 5,000 square feet in area. And there are a number, actually it says detached accessory structure on the east side. There are a number of accessory structures on the property, including this that you see here in the lower left is the I think it's the pool cabana. That's what I believe it is designated as on the survey, and it consists of 2 parts that are sort of joined by a roof. And after the Board of Adjustment hearing last week, when the applicant mentioned that there were, sort of a couple of different structures that we had not known that existed, because one of them is at least not shown on the survey, so we found out about it at the hearing. He submitted some photos. And as you can see, there already is today a roof that seems to extend, actually it seems to extend from the property line inwards towards that existing structure. So, I mean, I'm not sure if, I'm not sure whether that was permitted at some point, or how it was permitted. Obviously doesn't comply with the setbacks, but it appears that this variance will allow either for the legalization of that, somehow it doesn't look like it actually meets the setback that is being requested, or it will need to be dismantled, demolished, and replaced. There is also, I'm not going to get into this here right now too much, I'll come back to it. But we did hear at the hearing last week that there is another structure which was unclear. I think that the applicant said it was like a dog run or something. And typically those are just sort of fenced areas. But this is actually an actual structure. It's shown as a dog cage. And as you can see, it's there on the top, on the right, and that structure also does not meet the setbacks. I think that it's been there for a long time, and it doesn't, it's a potentially non-conforming structure. We don't know when it was done or when it was permitted. I believe that the gentleman said that it was before he purchased the property. But what I think that we found from this additional information is that there may be a need to, if you choose to go with the recommendation from the Board of Adjustment, add a condition that the property is going to be cleaned up of these non-conforming accessory structures, and make sure also that we do not exceed the maximum number of accessory structures that can be in the backyard by zoning code, which is 3. So that's one of, sort of additional information that was provided to us. Our analysis, which we presented to the Board of Adjustment, shows that, as I mentioned, this is a large lot. It is a regularly shaped lot, and there's plenty of room to consider different kinds of options for the design and placement of accessory structures. There is no hardship. There is no hardship as legal doctrine on variance, if you will, would define it. From that perspective, the variance also does not meet a couple of additional criteria that are in your code for the granting of variances. So our recommendation to the Board of Adjustment was for denial. Meeting the criteria for a variance is difficult, and it has to be difficult because variances have to be an exception to a rule. So the applicant has mentioned as a rationale for the request that their privacy is being infringed by the construction of a new house on the lot next door. I wanted to kind of go a little bit into that. Yes, the house that was built on 300 Hunting Lodge to the east is large, but it actually is pretty far away from the property line that abuts this property. This is a property that I think you all recall during your briefings had come before you for a waiver of plat to split the lot into 2. It's so large that it actually can be split into 2 and still not only comply but exceed. When the lot split came through and you approved it, the house was already under construction and had taken into consideration the fact that they wanted to subdivide. And it complied with the code for the subdivided lot in accordance with the zoning district. And not only did it comply with the minimum, but it actually exceeded the minimum required. The subdivided lot, which is 125 feet in frontage, with the other one being 75 feet wide. So this one, 125, according to the code, would require a minimum of 12 feet side setback. It actually is providing 30 feet, not 12 and a half, but 30. In addition to that, there is a second story that is stepped back further from the minimum property, that setback that is being provided, not the minimum. Not only that, but when we look back at the plans, we realize that what is supposed to be the second story, it's actually not even a full second floor. It's only in the front and the back of the structure and all the central portion of the building that looks to be a second story is a clear story. It's a two-floor height inside that space, and the windows that look on this side, they don't have any, nobody can stand there. There's no one there. They provide light, but there's no floor, there's no way to get on that side of the building. So I wanted just to mention that. I'm not trying to discredit the fact that, there may be a perception that there is, or perhaps even real, encroachment on their privacy by some means, but I don't think it's going to be from the windows on the second story, because again, there's no room behind them. And in fact, the two portions of that second story that actually have use inside, they don't have windows that face on that side. I think it's kind of hard to see here, but I'm just going to point it because I don't know how to make this work. These are the two areas where there's actually rooms inside the structure, and you can see that there are no windows facing on that side. So with that, and the fact that in our analysis of the variance criteria, we found that this variance request does not meet the variance criteria for you to grant, we are still recommending denial. The Zoning and Planning Board recommended approval, and as Roger mentioned, today your charge is either to decide whether to go with the recommendations from the Board of Adjustment. Did I say Planning and Zoning Board? I get confused. Board of Adjustment or not. And with that, I will close, and if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Roger, what happens if we set it for a separate hearing?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. Our code has pretty unique procedures. Essentially, you either affirm the decision of the board, which is essentially letting it stand when the action is done, or you request a further hearing, which will be conducted at the next city council. And you will be sitting as the Board of Adjustment, receive full presentations by the applicant, by staff, public. It becomes a full quasi-judicial hearing on the variance.
Okay. Councilman?
So as far as encroachment on setbacks, is that based on footprint, or can it be a cantilever?
It's based on footprint, yes. I mean,
Cantilevers are allowed.
we have an exception for encroachments into the side and rear setbacks for certain kinds of structures up to a certain point. You can encroach into a side setback for most structures, including a roof eave, up to 3 feet. This goes well beyond that. Today, it's meeting the minimum setback, and it wants to go
10 feet.
10 feet in. So theoretically, if they wanted to amend their application, they could go with an encroachment of 3 feet, cantilevered or otherwise, and that would be acceptable.
Mr. Chair, can you evaluate on the conditions of the Board of Adjustments?
I believe that the conditions of the Board of Adjustment were fairly standard.
The conditions that the Board of Adjustment recommended are basically the standard conditions that we put on all variances, so those are in our staff report. And they have to do with, let me just get my staff report here.
So, obviously, the scope of approval is limiting to the exact request, which Sylvia has mentioned is about 10 feet into the required setback, that there's substantial compliance with the plans that they submitted.
Correct.
That cost recovery is paid prior to finalization of any construction, that the variance lasts for a year, and that non-compliance renders the variance void. So it's fair.
I just wanted to clarify, not that the variance will last for a year, but that they have 1 year to get, that they have 1 year to get the building permit and embark on construction, or the approval of the variance will expire.
But that seems like kind of boilerplate
It
condition.
is the boilerplate, yes.
Right, attached to a variance, but I don't see how those conditions address, the concerns that staff had when you made your recommendation to deny.
Correct. Well, no, these recommendations were in the case that the Board of Adjustment decided to approve. And they were just standard conditions that would apply to pretty much any variance.
Okay.
However, as I said today, because of the additional information that has come to light with regards to structures that we were not aware of, and the way that those are set up, if you decided to affirm with these conditions, we would like to recommend to you that you add a condition regarding, I don't have the language, I had it before, but basically it is language that would require the applicant to remove any accessory structures that would exceed the maximum number if he wants to do this one.
Right.
And to bring into compliance any that are not in compliance today.
Yeah, I mean, I think, just giving my opinion, I feel like the staff recommendation kind of pointed out some things. The Board of Adjustment, approved it, or recommended approval of it, and I'm not sure how the concerns of the staff were addressed. And then there's been new information that has come in, and I think that setting this for a separate hearing would kind of help clarify things for us. But for that, we would need to entertain a motion to set for a separate hearing rather than affirm the Board of Adjustments. So I don't know if one of you guys has an opinion, or if you want to make that motion to set for a separate hearing so that...
Can I take one second? Just to clarify, those existing structures that were mentioned, they were existing when I purchased the home. The previous owner was a hunter and he had dogs, so he built that thing. In the new design that we have, and we didn't show it for clarity, we are demolishing everything that is within that 15-foot setback. We are only building 2 columns and a trellis in that space. The rest of our private area is going to move to the other side of the home. That area where the trellis is going to be is where our barbecue is at, our pool table's at, where our kids are always hanging out. So all those other substructures are going to be demolished, and the only thing that we're doing now is having that one trellis there. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Just to be clear, Roger, if we set this for a separate hearing, the homeowner will have an opportunity to, because I think I overheard you say something about your architect, he would have an opportunity at that hearing to kind of plead his case to us, with us serving as a Board of Adjustment, and then everything could be heard out, we could hear staff, we could hear them, but that would require
someone to make a motion to set it for a separate hearing if that's what you guys choose.
Yes, Mayor, you are correct about that. I do want to clarify one thing. Because of your current capacity, I know this is arcane, but our rules say that you are affirming this decision or requesting a new hearing. So even the addition of that condition that Sylvia mentioned is not something that you can do at this stage.
Right.
It would have to be done at a new hearing.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So, gentlemen?
I'd like to set a motion to set it for hearing, for a new hearing.
Okay, do we have a second?
Just to clarify, the next hearing will be February 23rd for...
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a first and second. Let's vote on setting this for a hearing. 90.
Vice Mayor Dion?
Yes.
Councilman Santeen?
Yes.
Councilman Lamas?
Yes.
Councilman Perez Crespo?
Yes.
Mayor Fahed?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay.
This would be February...
Next meeting. Okay, so we move on to the consent agenda. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, 10A and B.
Motion to approve consent agenda A and B, 10A and 10B.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, we have a first and second. Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Dion?
Yes.
Councilman Santeen?
Yes.
Councilman Lamas?
Yes.
Councilman Perez Crespo?
Yes.
Mayor Fahed?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, so we have no unfinished business or new business and other business as we discussed when we were doing the agenda and order of business. I wanted to propose a discussion where we review and discuss our implementation of our 2021 vacation rental property ordinance. I think that several people heard about an incident that happened over the weekend, so we've gotten, I'm sure all of us have heard a lot from residents regarding vacation rental property. I was on the council, only one among us that was on the council when we approved this vacation rental property ordinance. I remember at the time that we were approving right up to the limit of what the state allowed us to approve. As a matter of fact, I remember us being in first reading and our city attorney telling us, by the way, you may approve something that at the end of this legislative session is preempted by the state. So given the current context and not even necessarily discussing this one property or incident, I think it bears a discussion about what that vacation rental property ordinance was that we codified in 2021, and maybe we could discuss our implementation of what that ordinance does, perhaps what may have changed since 2021, but more importantly, what the city is doing to implement it so that we can discuss how that applies to our current situation. So, Roger, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mayor, you are correct, and you recall correctly, because you were one of the members that approved the ordinance. The ordinance was enacted in 2021, and it does go pretty far in regulating vacation rentals. One thing I want to make absolutely clear for members of the public and for this council is that state preemptions do currently govern vacation rentals. Specifically, cities cannot prohibit vacation rentals, and we cannot regulate the duration and frequency of individuals that are, staying at vacation rentals. But other than that, the city is allowed to regulate. Your ordinance already in place has a lot of regulations and burdens that are, or not burdens, but restrictions that are placed on vacation rentals.
Can I bring something up? Because people know people that live in other municipalities that might have some other rules that are grandfathered in. Can you, before you get into our ordinance, can you just speak to that so that everybody understands?
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor. Thank you for bringing that up again. Some ordinances that were adopted before June 1st, 2011 are grandfathered and exempted from the current preemption. But since then, we can't, cities cannot prohibit or regulate the frequency and duration of vacation rentals. As I mentioned, our ordinance was adopted in 2021, so we are not the city is not carved out from that preemption.
Okay, thank you.
And now that we're on that same topic, I do want to mention there have been efforts in the state previously to remove that exemption even, and there are always more efforts to preempt. So this is a field where the law changes a lot. So what we can do now and what we can do in the future may change.
Right.
Now, as to our current existing ordinance, there are a plethora of requirements for vacation rental properties. These include, that the property needs to be registered annually with the city. The registration itself requires submission of various information, obviously, a point of contact for emergencies, proof of being licensed by the state, valid emails, names, etc. There are health safety requirements, such as requiring smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, and if this sounds a little much, I'm just demonstrating some of the conditions that are imposed. As to occupancy, for example, there are limits that are broken down between day and night. During nighttime and it varies property to property, but there is a cap of 10 occupants, a maximum of 10 occupants at a vacation rental. Again, that changes. The smaller properties can have less than 10, or are capped at less than 10, excuse me. And then during the day, there's a cap of 14 regardless of the property size.
And I believe overnight is considered 11 to 7, if I read that?
That is correct, Mayor. Overnight is considered the time of 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning. I do want to mention, before I get into the efforts that the city has undertaken and is undertaking right now to address some vacation rental concerns, this ordinance is not perfect. There's no such thing as a legislation that's perfect. My office is obviously working with the city manager and with the police department in finding ways that we can maybe potentially improve this. That being said, I think that a majority of issues that face the city can a lot of times be resolved by enforcement, more proactive enforcement, and I know that I have been working with the manager and with the police department and code enforcement and building to address some of these concerns, to make folks understand the requirements of vacation rentals, the limitations and the obligations and duties that are imposed on property owners. If I can draw an analogy, folks that have been burglarized are often told it's not about making your house impenetrable, but it's about making yourself the least attractive property to get burglarized. And in that sense, enforcement, even if it's just reminding folks, hey, the city's paying attention, is probably the best, or at least in my opinion, a very good preventative medicine. JC, I don't know if you want to speak to that aspect, because we've been working on it together.
In light of this weekend's incident, I directed staff to get the list of vacation rentals, which we do have a list of people that had complied with registration and stuff. If there are illegal ones out there, we don't know at this point, but the ones that we do have registered, I directed staff to go look them up, make sure they're complying with every item that we have, and working with the police department, working with the city attorney's office, working with code and the building department, if there are any improvements that we can make to this ordinance, modifications within the law, state law, those will be coming to you soon. There are citations being issued under the current code. That's as far as I'm going to say. I don't want to compromise our case, but there are some citations being issued, and we're going to be in constant contact with the owners of these properties.
Through the chair. I have a question on our city ordinance and our regulation. Does it specify that the vacation rentals are managed through some third party? For instance, you have taxi services that are registered vehicles. You have Uber and Lyft that are registered vehicles. I myself cannot just start shuffling people around for payment legally. Is there an Airbnb corporate, some type of organization structure behind the rentals?
Or is this like anybody can have a rental unit on their own, independent? You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, you hold, in case of an incident, you can hold Airbnb as a structure liable. I mean, if there's an incident and there's a person attached to that incident, you would expect that a company like Airbnb will take punishment on that individual who rented the property. Is that the case? Do we have that within the city?
So as it relates to the city's ordinance, registration requirements, and the ultimate obligation and duties to maintain the property in compliance with our ordinance falls on the property owner. Whether that's an organization that owns vacation rentals or an individual or a family, however that property is held in ownership form, they are the ones that are held responsible.
Our ordinance, and correct me if I'm wrong, Roger, our ordinance does not say you have to use a third party, you have to use X amount of companies. It doesn't say that. It's silent to that effect. They can do it on their own, if so be it, if they want to. At the end of the day, as Roger said, the property owner is responsible. It's not going to be Airbnb. They don't own it. They just provide the platform where people go in, log on, and rent. And they take the commission.
But there is a repercussion to a person who rents through Airbnb and there's an incident or a crime is committed. There's a person held responsible and they may be banned, for instance, from the platform. Do we have that, any of that, any backup to that?
So I'd like to say, the owners of the property, in order to have a vacation property, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, they have to have a tax ID, they have to have like proof of licensure, they have to do a business tax receipt, they have to have like a statement of insurance coverage for the liability. That's all part of like their registration. There's also, they have to provide a number of somebody that within a couple of hours has to respond. You guys, when we did this ordinance, we were having, the property, not to mention Suco, but I guess that most of you would remember, the old Suco property, we were having an issue there, and part of the problem, I believe, is like the owner was like living in Michigan. And so that was part of the ordinance, is that there had to be somebody that would answer the phone 24 hours a day, and within 2 hours could be there. If there was an issue, there's fines that can be assessed. There was a whole lot, there is still currently a whole lot of things in this ordinance. I think that, while no ordinance is perfect and we could look at it, this strikes me, and again, I wanted this to just be a discussion because there's still, we just had an incident that caused people to, want clarification. I wanted this to be just, we're not going to, make any decisions tonight, but I did want to have a public discussion about it. There's still, as the city manager said, they're going to review all of these things. This strikes me as something that is less of a problem that needs a legislative solution versus something that has an administrative solution, because the ordinance is in place. We're still in the process of reviewing everything to see where not only the property in question, but others that have been, like, I think that this discussion was so that people knew, have this public discussion, that we do have an ordinance in place that has a whole lot of teeth in it and things that we do to regulate, and while it may not be perfect, I think that the city manager is committing to probably, maybe at the next meeting, provide us an update of like, hey, we have reviewed all the vacation rental properties in the city with respect to the extent to which they are in compliance with all the things that are part of this ordinance. So I think that if we give this meeting, push it to the next meeting, I think that the city manager might have some more information. Also, we didn't really get, which I don't like doing, right? I don't like having discussions when we haven't all had an opportunity to prepare, but I did think that because of what happened over the weekend, that it warranted us having a public discussion where we allay the concerns of residents, because I had people calling me and like, hey, Coral Gables, they do this, like, it's a whole, like, we do have an ordinance in place, and it does have things that protect us against the kind of things that we're talking about. So, So it is there, and we do have people registered, but we're doing a review, if I understand JC correctly, we're doing a review of absolutely everybody who's registered and all the things that they have to be in compliance with. And I think that if we give the city some time to come back to us with, hey, this is where we're at, this is where there's a compliance, because remember, there's ways as part of this ordinance where you can assess fees based on non-compliance rules. There's rules about like trash and parking and noise and all the nuisance that can come about with these kinds of vacation rental properties. So I think that a good review of, which is why I worded it that way, a discussion about our implementation. Because the ordinance may never be perfect, but a lot of times implementation is where you need to tighten up. So I think that if we give the city staff an opportunity to come back to us with a report of where we're at, I think that at least then, we can have a discussion about, hey, do we want to dive back into this ordinance and clean anything up? But I think that we need to have a better understanding of our implementation since 2021. I think that'll answer all of our questions, and I'd rather not put us on the spot going forward, but I did want to have this discussion so that people know, yes, we are doing something about it, yes, we have an ordinance in place, it is at the limit of what we can do because of state preemption, and we're going to check our processes in-house in terms of implementation of this ordinance, and then make any recommendations after that. JC, what do you think about?
That's absolutely perfect.
Okay.
I mean, one thing I do want to remind residents, and it's really important, and this came up when we were in a meeting earlier, if you have to live near, next to one of these vacation rentals, and they're creating a nuisance, they're having loud parties, they're violating our code, let us know. We need to know, let the police know, so we can document it. That's a very important part of this ordinance, which it seems like it hasn't been really done. They've been kind of being quiet, trying to be good neighbors and not saying anything, which I totally get, but it's important that we do document these.
I'd like to ask a question to the chair. So you mentioned illegal Airbnbs. That means that Airbnbs that aren't registered?
That aren't registered with us, yeah.
So maybe what we could start doing is getting proactive with those Airbnbs, right? Like the list of Airbnbs or short-term rentals that are out in the market compared to the ones that we have, right? So at least we could start working on that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be searching all the, let's say, all the Airbnb websites, the vacation rental websites, and if those pop up, then we're like, hey, wait a minute, this one's not on the list, but I see it here. We'll do our best to catch them as best we can. A lot of times, it'll say Miami Springs, but it won't have an address on there, so it becomes difficult to find it. Usually if you can see some landmarks in some of the pictures, we can make, a guess as to where they are, and enforce that way. But
we've had incidents, though, I remember, of people reporting to the city, like, hey, this is a vacation rental property, and they put it on our radar, and then we look and we confirm it.
And we confirm it,
If it
yes.
hasn't been registered, then we
get
that's a
it.
violation, and then we go after it. So, I mean, that's an important thing. But I think it's important for people to understand what the occupancy maximum limits are, and I know that I've heard from residents who say like, hey, this is a problem, it's something, it's every weekend. Whatever that story is, please continue to communicate that to us, because again, the devil is in the details in terms of how we implement this, but I feel like this ordinance has plenty of things in place. While maybe not perfect, there's a lot of things here that can help avoid the kinds of issues that some residents are voicing to us. Any other comments before we move on? And we'll probably hear more about, we'll definitely hear more about this. Yes.
And I want to emphasize what you've said, Mayor, because you're absolutely right. The ordinance does have teeth, and I didn't communicate this maybe as clearly as I'd like to, but the teeth in this ordinance comes from cooperation from these residents reporting, things that they see. Parking violations, noise violations, occupancy limit violations, and also the city's monitoring of advertising on the various platforms, ensuring that annual renewals are conducted and that renewals are done if they weren't done. So the ordinance has procedures and teeth to suspend those bad actors, but in order to bite teeth, we have to have the proof. So thank you for emphasizing that, and I want to confirm.
Got you. And Roger, I see a resident that wasn't here for open forum at the beginning. I'd like to, if you don't mind, come on up. Yes. Step up to the mic, please, quickly say your name and address, and briefly just make your comment.
My name is Freddy Guerrero. I live on 900 Ibis. I live right in back of the backyard of the 901, the Trouble Airbnb. And I'm here to give you my testimony, because I've been suffering for the last 5 years, okay, with the issues happening in this premises. There's been fist fights, there's drugs in there. Saturday they raped a girl in there, okay? So you can look up the police reports. I've called Airbnb. When this started, they didn't do anything about it. I call the police every time I can. They don't do anything about it, and I hear you guys talking about regulations, but the influences this house is having in our neighborhood, and it's right in front of the high school. I don't know if you guys know it. So this is creating a lot of stuff. Look, there's parties with jamming speakers there. There's marijuana burning left and right, okay? Like 100 cars in the block there, because there's a big lot in front of it, and there's the high school there, okay? So, fist fights, they stabbed a person in there in that house. So, what are you guys waiting for? To kill somebody in there? Because, that's what I see. It's right in front of it's in my backyard. I hear everything that happens there. I don't tell my children, my kids, to go out there because there's so much foul language in there. I'm afraid to go into my backyard. You've been to my house, and you know my house is right in back of them. So you guys got to do something about, I don't know what you have to do, but I've been doing all the channels, how to get to stop this premises from having this kind of individuals. I don't mind if they do Airbnb and they have families coming over, but that's the least of the times that it happens. Most of the times, there are people in there. I have a video, you want to see it, of what happened on Saturday. So, you guys are talking, and it's been 5 years, and I've been calling the police for the last 5 years. My neighbors are doing that, and nothing happens. And I hear you guys talking, and I would appreciate if we can do something about this, because I'm afraid something is happening with the influences and drugs and everything is going on in there. There's not families that come over. Very few families come over to that premises. One time they crashed a car and they left it abandoned there. You can check all the police reports, and you will see how many incidents have happened in that location. So
thank you.
I will appreciate your help as best as possible.
Thank you. Before you leave, you can grab my card. I'm gonna listen. Our city manager has an open door policy. You can always email us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'll be there. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Okay, so, I think we've said it all. I think that we've got marching orders, we've got things that we're going to be looking at, and we'll have a much clearer view of what's been happening and what needs to be done going forward for next meeting. So, thank you everyone for that discussion. We will continue to reports and recommendations, and we'll begin with our city attorney. Roger, what do you got?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I've probably spoken too much today, but I do want to just thank you all for your patience and for allowing me to help you through this entire public hearing process. It's been a long road.
It has. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. All right. City Manager, what do you got?
Mayor, just so you know, as a follow-up to our last meeting regarding 36th Street and Southeast Springs, Omar has already started meeting with different PR firms, marketing firms for the informational campaign. We'll have secondary meetings coming up with those firms as well, and hopefully a proposal will be brought to you in the very near future, so we can get that going. Other than that, I do apologize, I have a headache right now, so in the near future, as you have mentioned at Saturday's event at the mansion, which was wonderful, by the way, the state of Florida is going to be changing the way the property tax. They're going to do some property tax legislation. It's going to have a significant impact on the city. So in the coming months, as it becomes more and more clear what that impact is going to be, I will, either provide updates at the council meeting so that the residents are aware of what it means and how much it is that's going to be impacting the city. So that's all I have.
Okay. Omar?
Nothing to report.
Okay. All right. City Clerk?
Briefly, Mayor, City Council, I was in contact with the Supervisor of Election. They are aware of the withdrawal of the April 7th, and we were approved also for the August 18th primary election, just to keep that in mind, because I know we'll be having some conversations coming forward, so.
Yeah, and so I think the plan is to bring up the ballot language again at the next meeting, is that right, Roger? Okay, all right, so that'll be important for everybody to stay tuned about. And so now reports from our City Council, and I'll begin on my right with Councilman Santini.
Thank you, Mayor. As started to mention, our event last Saturday night, the gala, the Centennial Gala for our community, was a hit, to say the least, and I just got to give credit to all the volunteers. People don't understand how many people are trying to help and make this special for our city, the Centennial year. So more of my hats off to that group, but there's, at the end of the day, they're volunteers. Every single thing you see on the internet, from the social media to just every single thing is by residents in Miami Springs who want to make a difference. So, hands on, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I have to second that. It was a great event. Thank you so much for working so hard on this, and I love watching it come to life. From when we first started talking about it and going to the Centennial meetings and whatnot, it's been amazing, especially the monument. I just want to touch base really quick on the Airbnb, and you mentioned the police department. I could, for myself, tell you that I've had conversations with some of the leaders at the police department, and they share your sentiment. They're very concerned as well. They definitely want to see something done. Everyone's doing as much as they can, and we're going to push to continue to do more, okay? So stay in communication with us.
All right.
And
It's not only me, I mean,
okay.
the whole neighborhood.
But if you're not on the mic, there's no point in saying it because it's got to be public. So you had your time, and we'll have another meeting, and you can feel free to come in and chime in then there as well. Thank you. Or email us, like we said. Okay.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman.
Big thanks to everyone who helped put together Saturday's gala. It was amazing, and I'd really like to recognize Councilman Santin. I know he's poured his heart into Centennial, so it really showed. Thank you. Thank you all. Just to echo the sentiments on the gala, I think we came away with, I had people come up to me and say, I didn't know about this. You should do more of this. And it takes a lot of planning, but I think it was a beautiful night. The city deserves it to celebrate something. And so I just want to thank you, everyone who participated in the planning of this gala. This program is amazing. Great, what a great book, what a great, memorable experience to have the book with you. And I just want to wish Dr. Victor Vasquez a speedy recovery. That's it.
All All right, thank you. And once again, yeah, I mean, not to be redundant, but I thought it was an incredible event, and everybody came away wishing that we do it every year, except they probably wouldn't wish to volunteer and do as much work every year, but it was great, and looking forward to August when we go to celebrate the actual centennial and commemoration of 100 years. Even though there are many more events still planned, I think the plan is that all of the events that normally happen will kind of become centennial events we kind of piggyback on. So the River Cities Festival will have the grandeur of the centennial, and I'm sure everything else going forward as well. So stay tuned. 100miamisprings.com, is that right? That's the centennial website. Okay, so having said that, this meeting is adjourned at 9:22. Thank you for coming.